What next? Okay, this has been such a hot topic in the reseller community. I first did a video titled, "Are live sales worth the hype?" I did it on the heels of actually doing my very first Whatnot show. It was very raw, it was very new to me. It was like an hour and a half long video. I will link it in the description for you if you want to check that out. I knew that by doing that video, there would be this video, a follow-up video a few months later to talk about how things are going with Whatnot. Today, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons through my eyes, what I see as the future of Whatnot and live sales in general. I'm going to go over the sales from one of my recent videos, and I'm going to talk to you about items that I specifically sourced from the Goodwill outlet to sell on Whatnot. Then I'm going to tell you what it sold for and then what my profit was and whether or not I think that's worth it. This is going to be another long video, but I will definitely mark different chapters for you so that you can go to different parts and skip things that you don't need to hear. And I'm also going to be sharing with you at the end of this video whether or not I plan to continue with Whatnot. If that sounds good to you, be sure to stick around. If you would like to be part of this community, be sure to subscribe to my channel and like it if you find any value in this video. Okay, I've literally been taking notes for this video for weeks, and I've put it off a couple times because I feel like Whatnot is changing so much. For those of you who may have randomly clicked on this video, Whatnot is an app. It is a platform where you can sell items live. It started out as a platform where people could sell their collectibles and kind of have a safe place to do live sales and be protected by a platform. So a lot of people were selling their like Funko figures, Pokemon cards, collectibles, things like that. They recently branched out and they opened up a section for women's thrift and vintage. This is when things kind of exploded in the reseller community. The person who inspired me to sign on to Whatnot was my friend Jenna from Empty Hanger. I feel like Jenna is always on the forefront of things. She's always willing to try new things, which I really appreciate. She's always professional. And I have a lot of respect for Jenna. She used to be on YouTube. She was one of the first people I followed on YouTube. And so I was watching her very closely when she started on Whatnot. I took in a couple of her shows and I started giving it some thought. I also saw an opportunity, because it was such a new platform, to kind of get my feet wet before it grew so much that I either got intimidated by it and didn't want to try it out, or like I missed the wave or something like that. So I was excited to try it out because I'm comfortable on camera. I really do love a live audience. I think that is kind of an important thing to keep in mind if you're contemplating doing live sales. I thought for me, as somebody who's on YouTube, it was a really nice way to connect with some of the members of my community in a different way. So I jumped in. My opinion has definitely evolved since I've started, but I have had some real success on this platform. Once I hit that 1,000 items sold, I felt like that was going to be a point where I felt like I was experienced enough to come on here and give my opinion of the platform. I would be very weary of people who talk about Whatnot who have no experience on the platform. I think there is no lacking of people who fear the unknown or knock what they're not doing. You know, like, oh, I don't like Depop, so Depop kind of sucks. I'm not gonna deal with those like trends and hashtags. And, you know, it's funny to me, the negativity that comes out of fear and people who just don't know what they're talking about. So you can speculate and you can have your own opinion, but until you're actually walking in the shoes, you need to tread kind of lightly. So to quickly give you an overview of how a Whatnot show works, you preload your items into the app so people can view it ahead of time. You can include photos. You have to weigh your item. You can include measurements as you want. If you want, you can make it as descriptive as you would like it to be. Those come under the auction category. There's also a buy it now category. So if you want to sell maybe higher priced items that you don't want to go for a lower price, you can do it in the buy it now section. I sell stickers in my buy it now section, and I do that as a way for people to unlock discounted shipping. The shipping is a little bit complicated with Whatnot, but the gist of it is the first item that you purchase, you pay full shipping on it, and your shipping is based on the weight and where your location is. The weight is preloaded. When somebody is talking about an item, you can click on the shipping and you can know in the moment as the auction's happening what your shipping is going to be. The first item is full price shipping. Every item after that is discounted shipping. So I offer stickers, which are very, very lightweight and the lowest amount to ship. People can buy stickers. They get a decent deal on some laptop stickers, some water bottle stickers that I pick out. I curate them and they're pretty cute. Right now I'm doing coffee lovers stickers, and then they can unlock discounted shipping. So the buy it now section is a separate strand on Whatnot. And then there's another strand called giveaways, and you don't have to do giveaways, but giveaways has become part of the culture of Whatnot. And I usually do, if I'm doing a 2-hour show, I'll do 4 giveaways. If I'm doing an hour and a half, I usually do about 3 giveaways. My first show, I went all out. I spent a lot of money on giveaways, and I don't regret that. I was really excited for my first show. There was a lot of anticipation. There was a lot of community support, and I just wanted to show my appreciation. You as the seller pay for the shipping for your giveaways. So if you're new to Whatnot and you want to do a giveaway, I would recommend to find something that's lightweight so it's not costing you a lot of money to do your giveaways. So those are the 3 strands. And then people come into your room. As the seller, you can set how long you want the auction to be. I used to do 30 seconds. Now I toggle between 20 seconds and 30 seconds. I like to move things quickly. I did a tutorial show early on, and I think I had longer time for the auction because I was kind of explaining things as I went through because it was so new to the community. I wanted to do like a tutorial. I've done theme shows. You can really do curated. I've done a vintage show. I've done a Victoria's Secret show, which was probably my lowest profit. I did a Disney show, which was fun. It was a different crowd for me. So you can really be creative with this platform. Yeah, and then you run your auction and then you print all your labels and they itemize everything that went in a particular bundle, which is really nice. So you print out your labels and everything is right there. If you're familiar with Poshmark, when I print my Poshmark labels, I flip them over on the back and I write the item on the back of the label because the labels just come out as a single label. You don't know what is in that package. So I always write on the back of my labels what I need to go pull for my inventory. But then it does take up a lot of labels because if you have multiple quantities in one order, sometimes 4 labels will have to print. So you go through a lot of the 4x6 labels if you use that system. That's like the overview of Whatnot. Some people play music, some people go all out, some people are low key, some people don't show their face. You can make it your own, which I view as a pro. So why don't we jump into the pros and cons, and then at the end of the video, I'll tell you exactly how many items I've sold, how many shows I've had, what my average selling price was, and let you know if I plan to continue with Whatnot. So pros. I think the room energy can really be a pro. I think sometimes people get excited. There's a great community in Whatnot, and sometimes the energy in the room can be a pro. The room energy, however, is also on my con list because for the same reasons that you can have a really great energy in your room, a lot of buyers, a lot of like people communicating and talking and all that, you could have a silent show where nobody's requesting to see anything, where you have under 10 people in the room and nobody's really talking and items aren't selling because the energy is low and people just don't seem to be vibing with what you're selling that day. It's a very volatile environment, but the energy in the room can definitely be a pro. But that is such a variable, and I think that can essentially be a con as well, because you just don't know, regardless of how much you prep for a show, regardless of how many amazing items you're about to show, if you don't have the energy in the room and you don't have buyers there, it can really be a discouraging experience for you. Another pro, and this I think to me is like top 2, like what I would consider the top 2 things as pros, and that's you move through inventory fast. When I was doing like a show a week, there were a couple weeks that I did 2 shows in a week, and I was doing like 50, 60 items, even if they weren't selling out. I was selling between 90 and 100 items in 1 week. I had such a slow summer on Poshmark. I had several months where I was selling less than 75, 80 items in the entire month. And I'm somebody who typically does between 100 and 150 items a month on Poshmark, but I was moving 100 a week on Whatnot. And that to me was just so exciting as somebody who has excess inventory, death piles, just too much, it was so nice for me to have this option to move through certain inventory quickly. So that is a huge pro to me. And on the heels of that, to clear out product. People use Whatnot for different things. There are people who sell liquidation and they have very high-end items on Whatnot. And then I would say that I am more like Whatnot are like my bins finds. And then I always sprinkle in some really nice items as well. I've had more premium shows than others. I've had like strictly bins shows, and I don't like announce what the vibe is. There are people who will say, I know the deal queen, Alexandra, would say, this is a premium show, and she was gonna bring her A game, she was bringing high-end brands, she was bringing lots of new with tag items, and then she would just have like an afternoon where she was just running some stuff, and some stuff was used, some was new, some things were flawed, and I feel like that's kind of how most of my shows are. They're that like middle tier. But because of that, it was so nice for me to just be able to move product. So also where it's easier to clear out your product, or that's a pro, I would say, I'm able to sell style-based stuff really well on Whatnot. And what that means is, as a reseller, I'm often looking for certain brands that have a good resale value. And I may be out thrifting and find a piece that I think is absolutely adorable and that I know people would love, but unless they're searching for that on Poshmark, there's a good chance that they may not see it, unless maybe they watch one of my YouTube videos or they happen to be scrolling through my closet. But a style-based pickup is something that the style is relevant and people are seeking it out. However, it might be a brand that nobody's looking for, so I hesitate a lot to do style-based pickups for Poshmark. I do plenty of them, but I have more of a hesitation because I'm like, how long do I want to sit on this item? Well, that's the sort of thing that to me is just fantastic for Whatnot, because you can really sell it because you're live. You have the ability to share your enthusiasm with your audience. I pick up a lot of items that I get home and I see that they're flawed. Because I do thrift with me's, I'm often filming while I'm out thrifting. I'm kind of doing a lot of things at once, and I'm not always the most careful when I'm thrifting. And I get home and I have this item that I'm really excited about, and then a button's missing, or there's a rip in the seam, or there's more wear than I thought. Those are things that I will just say, you know what, sunk cost, I spent $5 on this, I'll bring it over to Whatnot, and whatever it sells for, and we're done. I'm looking right now at a robe that I bought that was really cute, and I got it home, and I thought it tied, but it was just the inside tie. The belt was missing. I missed that. I thought it was like attached, but the tie was for the inside of the robe. You know, when you cross over a robe, you tie it on the inside and then you do the belt on the outside. And so that's something I'm going to list on Whatnot. So for me, I can disclose items that have flaws and then they can still sell on Whatnot. Obviously, I'm probably not going to get as much as I would have if the item weren't flawed, but I'm not having to donate that item. So to me, that's a huge pro. I think another pro is that there's huge potential in live sales. I think this is a relatively new craze, I guess, in reselling right now. I mean, live sales have been around for a long time. However, I feel like they're really gaining momentum now. And you can see that because now Poshmark has rolled out live sales. And so Whatnot was a little ahead of that game because they were the first platform that I know of that gained so much popularity that was pretty streamlined. They have a good thing going on. I think that this platform has a lot of room to grow. And right now, I think there is a surplus of sellers. At the beginning, there were a ton of buyers because it was harder to be approved because there was such a bottleneck waiting game for people who wanted to start selling. People were super excited to be on the platform, and there were a lot of buyers, and now I think the pendulum has definitely swung, and that is going to be, I'm going to talk about that with my cons. But I do think that live sales are up and coming. They're gaining a ton of popularity. Now we have Whatnot, we have Poshmark. Comment below if you know what's going on with eBay and live sales. I don't know if they've already rolled it out or if they're rolling it out. If you have any experience with that, let me know. I have no idea where eBay is at with live sales. For me, one of the pros has been I have a lot of repeat buyers. Now, I definitely have some repeat buyers on Poshmark as well, but I think that my repeat buyers are different on Whatnot, meaning they're not necessarily my repeat buyers who are on Poshmark. Some people are definitely crossovers and they buy from me on both platforms, but I see people coming back, and if they know your style and you're picking up stuff that they like and they see that you have a live show, they're going to tune in. And so that's been really nice. I mean, I have certain people that I can really count on them for most of my shows to show up, and then because they have such a great bundle feature where your items that you buy afterwards go down in price, people are buying more and they're getting really good deals on Whatnot. I think that Whatnot grows your community much better than Poshmark does. I think Poshmark wanted to be that social platform, and you all know that I am not a Poshmark basher. I worked with them earlier this year. They've been my main platform since I started reselling. I have a lot of love for Poshmark, but I don't feel the same sense of community with I feel it in the reseller community, like with my YouTube family and my Instagram family and now my Whatnot family, but like I don't really feel it with Poshmark. I feel like Whatnot did a great job, or maybe just the people who showed up for Whatnot wanted to be a part of a new community, and I think it's really grown that way. Okay, one of the other pros, and I know this is a controversial one, is their affiliate program. It's controversial because some people are in the affiliate program, some people are not. I have been in the affiliate program for maybe a month or two. I think you have to have a certain number of sales, you have to have a certain rating, because customers do rate their experience and their item once they receive it, much like Poshmark and eBay, you get a rating. I think maybe the number of items sold, I'm not sure what the breakdown is. So for anybody who is accepted in selling on the platform, you can refer another seller. And if you get somebody to sign up and then they actually go through onboarding and they host their first show, you get a $200 kickback. And that is a huge perk. If you have somebody who signs up just to be a buyer, when they sign up, they get a $10 credit to shop with if they use your link, which is really fun, and you would get a $10 credit to use on the site, which again is a really great program. Poshmark also offers that. People seem to be a lot more opinionated about Whatnot, and I think it's because of the seller referral, because there's such a chunk of money. But that goes for anybody who is currently selling. The affiliate program, once you hit certain thresholds, it goes up. The seller reward jumps from $200 to $250. The referral program for purchasing, the person who uses your link gets $15 instead of $10, and then you get $25 back. I think because this is a new platform, they are offering big rewards because they want to grow their platform. I get very few Poshmark referrals, even though practically every single one of my videos touches on Poshmark in some fashion. But I have gotten fewer from Poshmark in all of my years than I've gotten from Whatnot, because most people watching my videos, they are already on Poshmark. So I'm not getting a lot of referrals from that. And it just is what it is. It's the benefit of jumping on board with a company when they're new. Because one of the cons of Whatnot, that I feel like I'm getting ready to talk about the cons, even though I've touched on a lot of them. Most of your items sell for less than they sell for on platforms like Poshmark and eBay. But with that referral money or credit, it kind of like lessens the blow a little bit. Oh, and I also think when you're an affiliate, which I have not seen this show up in my stuff, so I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, and I might even be off with this, but my understanding was that also if you're an affiliate, they credit you $100 towards giveaways on a monthly basis. But I need to do some fact checking on that because I haven't seen that credit come through yet. So I don't know if you have to submit a form and I just am not submitting it, or what the deal is. But I thought that was also one of the perks for the affiliate program. And once you hit 1,000 sales, this is whether you're an affiliate or not, once you've processed 1,000 sales or hit a certain sales number, maybe it's $10,000, I don't know what it is. I hit 1,000 sales, you get an automatic payout. So you don't have to wait for your buyer to receive their item. The second that it processes and you ship it, you get an automatic payout on Whatnot once you've hit 1,000 sales, which is really a perk. This just happens automatically once you hit 1,000 sales, which I think is great. I am at 1,200 sales on Whatnot, and I've been on this platform since June. I just hit 4,000 sales on Poshmark a few months back. And I've been on the platform since 2018. So it took me basically a year. I average about 1,000 sales, 1,000 items in a year on Poshmark. And I hit 1,200 on Whatnot. And I've only been on the platform since June, I believe. So June, July, August, September, October. So 5 months. And I'm at 1,200 sales. You move your product so quickly. Okay, so I'm just gonna really quickly review the pros and then we're gonna go on to the cons. So the energy in the room, you move through inventory really fast. You can clear out product, the affiliate program, lots of repeat buyers. You gain a new community that you can grow with. Huge potential because it's a young platform and live sales are growing. Easier to explain and disclose any flaws in items. And then I have grows community. Oh, okay, so I have it's a new community as a pro, and then it also grows your community as another pro. Okay, so now let's go over the cons. I've definitely touched on some, but I'm gonna get into more detail now. So let's go back to that room energy. That is a pro, but it can also definitely be a con. You can prep and put a lot of time and energy into your sales, and then the people just aren't there. Where that doesn't happen with platforms like eBay and Poshmark and Depop. So your audience is so much smaller. Even a good show that has 150 people in the room, that pales in comparison to numbers when you're looking at the internet. How many millions of people are viewing items between Poshmark, eBay, Mercari, and Depop, and all of those platforms. It's a minute fraction of the potential of eyes that can be on your item. So the audience is so much smaller, and the room energy really plays into it as well. And I think this really affects a lot of new sellers. I do think that people's expectation now is a little bit more on par than when Whatnot first started. I think people go in knowing I probably should start my items a little bit higher, because if I only have 5 people in the room and I'm starting my items at $1, chances are they're gonna sell really low. And I think what has happened as the platform has grown and the buyer pool has shrunk a little bit, I think people are getting smart and they are starting their items higher, knowing that you may not have any buyers in the room or people who wanna buy that item. So I always recommend to people, if you buy an item for $5, you gotta list it at least at $7 or $8 because you wanna cover your cost, unless you're a super experienced buyer or you know you have 200 people in the room and I'm holding up like a brand new Lululemon belt bag that I know people are gonna buy, or I have a pair of Teaks that I know they're gonna sell for more than $5. But even things like that, you just can't be 100% certain. The energy of the room can really play a part, and I've seen sellers like kind of get very visibly frustrated, and I feel for them, like when they have great things and they're like, does anyone want to see this? Or this is a giveaway. I mean, there's 20 people in the room and only 5 people are entering the giveaway. This is free. Like, I can see the frustration in some of the sellers. The room energy can really play a part. I think it's really important to remain professional when you're doing these shows, and understanding like it's not Whatnot's fault if people aren't in the room. It's not your fault if people aren't buying necessarily, and it's not the people in the room, it's not their fault if they're not buying either. It's a live platform. Anybody can stop in. I might have 175 people in the room, but when I go to print my labels, I'm only sending out like 35 labels, meaning I only had 35 buyers, even with 175 people in the room. And a lot of times it's even less than that. One of the other cons is if you don't have the personality or you don't have like thick skin, this could be a really tough platform. And I don't know that I fully appreciated that when I first started, because I'm like, everybody can do this. And yes, everybody can do it. But I think the people who are more successful are the people who are comfortable in front of the camera, they're conducting themselves professionally, they have items that people want, they have a certain amount of energy that they're putting out there. There are some people who still do very successful sales and they don't show their face, but they have great items. I watch a lot of the luxury handbag things, and a lot of people are on the other side of the camera with those, and they're really focusing on the item. But I do think you have to figure out what works for you and what you're comfortable with, and what you're willing to put into the app. So I feel like I'm going around in circles on the room energy. The bottom line is the room energy is a variable. Your energy as the seller, the energy of the people in the room, what you're offering in that room, the time of day that you're selling. There's so many variables that go into the room energy. So I'm kind of calling it room energy, but so many things play into that. The experience of the seller, how much the seller advertised, like so much goes into it. Maybe I should be saying the variability as opposed to the room energy as a con. Because, you know, if you have a beautiful item in good condition that is listed well on Poshmark, there aren't many other variables. There are people searching it. Maybe you get lucky and someone searches it the minute you post it and you sell it right away for full price. Other times you post something that's really good and it sits around forever and you end up taking less than you wanted, because timing does play into online sales as well. But with live sales, the variability of whether or not your show is successful can really be a con. Next up, not enough buyers. I talked about this earlier. I think because this is a new platform, there aren't as many buyers. People aren't trained, so to speak, on Whatnot. And I haven't really mentioned much about Poshmark sales that are now live. I think this is going to be a huge hit for Whatnot and a huge con because people are already familiar with Poshmark. They are comfortable on the app. They've been on the app for 5, 8 years, or even 3 years, 2 years. They're comfortable with the platform. Chances are people are more likely to spend their money on Poshmark than they are to sign up on a new app that they're not sure about. The shipping is a little weird with like the first things full price and then after that and the variables, flat shipping on Poshmark. I think that Poshmark live sales is really going to hurt Whatnot. I think it's currently hurting Whatnot. That's not to say that long term Whatnot won't weather the storm and prevail in the end, but I think that live sales on Poshmark is definitely going to hurt them. And that gets back to not enough buyers. Poshmark has a ton of buyers. Inexperienced sellers is also a con. It's not great for the site if people are new to the app and they're like, oh, let me go into this room and see how this sale is. And they go in and someone's like really struggling with the technical stuff, or they're yelling at their dog in between showing an item, or they walk out of their room, or they're like it can really turn somebody off if you go into a sale and you observe somebody and you're like, what is this all about? If you have an inexperienced seller, or you yourself are an inexperienced seller, even if you're doing all the right stuff, there's still like a definite learning curve. And if you're an inexperienced seller, it can be a con because you might not be starting your items at a high enough price. You might do sudden death and the clock runs out and nobody bid, or you got like one small bid and now like you're taking a loss on things. So if you're an inexperienced seller, it can really hurt you on a live platform. I also feel like there's a little bit of people who want immediate gratification with Whatnot too, and it just doesn't happen that way. I say all the time, I've been on Depop for a few months, but I haven't really nurtured Depop, and I make very few sales over on Depop. There is a learning curve. I say it about YouTube all the time when people are getting frustrated that their YouTube channel isn't growing. I was on YouTube for 10 months before I got monetized. I did probably 40 to 50 videos without making a single penny on YouTube. So there is an investment you need to make in a new platform or with anything that you're learning. You don't come out of the womb running, and so you have to put some time in. And I think some people were overly harsh on Whatnot because they weren't getting the results they wanted immediately. So that does just take time. I don't see that as a con. I see that as any new learning platform. You're going to take some time to ramp up. All right, poor inventory is another con. And I've fallen victim to this where I'm like, oh, the show isn't like my best inventory. And I think what happened at one point is people started viewing Whatnot as like a yard sale. And I think a lot of people still do. And I'm not putting my best stuff on Whatnot. Some people were. And then I think a lot of people were getting burned. They were selling like liquidation, and they were, buying items for $7 to $10 a piece in liquidation or whatever it costs. I don't do liquidation, so I really don't know what people pay. But then their items weren't selling for much more. It became not worth it to them. So if you have poor inventory, it can go against you on Whatnot. Conflicting shows. It's very difficult now that Whatnot has gotten so big to have a show that doesn't conflict with somebody else. So you're having a show and you may have your best items ever, but if there are 4 other like bigger sellers that are having a show at the same time as you, you're splitting your audience even more. So conflicting shows, that's going to be a problem across the board for Poshmark and for Whatnot in any live platform. There's only so many hours in a day, and people are going to be split with what shows they're attending. So Poshmark lives are definitely a con for Whatnot right now, as I already mentioned. I have not done a Poshmark live yet, so I really can't speak to it at all. I did just sign up for onboarding on November 7th. I'm going to be doing some training to onboard. I'm not really in a hurry with Poshmark because I know I've seen some frustration with other people. They don't have the bundle feature that Whatnot has, and I think that's been very complicated. I've also heard that a lot of people are opening up cases and they're returning stuff, and that's become a little bit complex. One of the features, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, is like a quick add, and you can pull from your existing Poshmark closet even items that you didn't preload in the show, and I think that is so cool that you can pull from your own closet and people can go in and look through your existing closet. So the fact that Poshmark is a platform people are already familiar with, again, even from the selling perspective, it would be really cool for me if Poshmark live sales became part of my repertoire and I was able to just streamline it all. Low price sales, this has to be one of the top cons for Whatnot. And this has been a recent trend that I think the average selling price is coming down because you have less buyers on there, and people, like, the hype of it all is kind of dwindling a little bit. And I think people have some Whatnot fatigue, and I touched on this in my first video when I talked about the platform Clubhouse, how Clubhouse had huge popularity and people were on it 24/7, and we used to call it a Clubhouse hangover because people would spend so many hours on Clubhouse, they wouldn't go to bed at night, or they'd go to bed, they'd get 5 hours of sleep, and then they felt like they were hungover the next day because they had spent so much time on that platform. And I think that similar things can happen on Whatnot. I think one of the cons for me as somebody who has to put makeup on for YouTube and kind of be on for my YouTube videos is that you have to be on when you're selling on Whatnot. There's a significant amount of gearing up that I have to do for a Sunday morning show. That's when I do most of my shows. My Breakfast Club show that's at 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings, that's the time I've kind of settled in on, and I love that time slot. But I wake up on a Sunday morning and we're not rolling out of bed and going to get omelets. I'm like, okay, I have to get ready for my show. I have to take a shower. I have to put makeup on. You don't have to do any of these things. This is how I conduct my shows. Yeah, it's very different than sitting on the couch and watching Netflix and making sales go live on Poshmark. If you are somebody who likes to just put your head down and work and stay the course that way, live sales can really disrupt your day in that way because you kind of have to just be on. That might not be your personality, so that might be a con for you. It can be hard to prep for a Whatnot show. One of the major adjustments that I have made from the time that I did that first video is I no longer take pictures and I no longer do measurements. And I know in that first video, I was like, you should do pictures and you should do measurements because that's gonna get people to the room. If they can preview your shop and get in there and see what's available, that's going to increase the odds that people are going to stay. And I still agree with all of that. But from a preparation and time standpoint, to me, Whatnot is not necessarily my top tier stuff. I may throw a couple top tier pieces into a 50-piece show, but it's not the bulk of my stuff. And so I am not going to take the time anymore to measure, photograph, long descriptions, multiple pictures, or anything like that to preload my show because the payoff might not be there. I have tested it where I've had the pictures and where I haven't had the pictures, and there isn't that huge of a difference. There's actually a part of me that thinks sometimes not having pictures makes it a little more intriguing for people, so you get more requests, and that kind of is a perception thing. If a lot of people are requesting items, I think it beefs up the energy in the room. And if you don't have pictures, people have, even if they're not going to buy it, they have to request to see it. And I think that creates a perception of more desirability for your items. For me, I can load an item in 20 seconds if I'm just weighing it and doing a title. and boom, making it go live, where before it was taking me an enormous amount of time to prep for these parties. And then on the flip side, you can get really burnt out from shipping. If you sell 60 items, you could spend all day shipping the next day. Now, I've definitely gotten more efficient with my shipping, but that can be a con. You have all the day of the show, like all the prep that it takes to get there, the day of the show, and then you spend the next day shipping. And if you didn't make the sales you had hoped to, it's a lot of time and energy. Sometimes I'll do photographs for a particular item, or sometimes I'll do it for my buy it nows. But I mean, generally, 9 times out of 10, I'm not photographing items, and I'll only measure something if it doesn't have a size or if it's like an awkward piece. I'll put the measurements in there if somebody requests it. But it saves me so much time by not doing that. And to me, that makes it worth it. I think one of the cons for Whatnot is that I think it's divided our community. It's too bad that something came onto the scene and it just, I mean, I feel like it was like a hatchet down the middle, and you had all the pro Whatnot people and all the Whatnot haters. I feel like people have mellowed out on both ends at this stage of the game, but I see that as much as it grew communities, I also think it divided communities, and so I think that is a bit of a con. I think their shipping is a little complex, and people could see that as a con, even though Poshmark has not figured out how to do bundles, and that's been its own set of challenges. With Whatnot, the complicated, first item is full price and then discounts after that. Like if you're new to the platform and you're trying to figure out how much something is going to cost, you know, with Poshmark, it's super easy, and Whatnot can be a little bit complicated for people. I don't like to sell heavy things on Whatnot because I feel bad for people who have to spend $9 and $11 to ship something. So I tend to try to keep more lightweight stuff in my shows. It's not that I won't have heavy things. I try to put heavy things at the end of the show so that there's an increased chance that somebody may have already purchased something in the beginning and then they'll have discounted shipping towards the end. I have items that blow me away what they sell for on Whatnot that I am very much certain, I guess I can't say 100%, but I'm 99% sure that those items would have not even come close to that amount of money on Poshmark. And people are just excited about a certain item, and that can really go for a lot of money. I'm just going to use a quick example. I am going to go over my sales with you from my last show. However, I had this Cape Cod sweatshirt. I bought it at the bins, and it sold for $46. Never did I think that I was gonna get $46 for that Cape Cod sweatshirt. It turned out that after I showed it on YouTube, I'm not joking, I got like 7 or 8 people who asked, DM'd me, emailed me, messaged me on Instagram who wanted that sweatshirt, and it was already gone. But that $46 sweatshirt really surprised me. That sold for much more than I thought it would. And then there were probably 2 or 3 items that I thought maybe they'd sell for $18 and they sold for like 12 or 13. You get some items that really surprise you, and then you're disappointed by a couple. But I think when you look at the show overall, especially if you're dealing with items that are low cost of goods, I think that you can be really surprised by what things can go for on Whatnot. But definitely overall, I would say that my average selling price on Whatnot is between like $12 and $15. My average selling price on Poshmark and eBay is between like $30 and $35. But again, I'm moving through stuff. When I look at my numbers, which I'll also share with you, it's really helped my overall sales this year, especially when Poshmark was basically dying a quick death over the summer. Like I could not believe how low my numbers were on Poshmark. And if it weren't for Whatnot, I would have been like lost from a sales standpoint. So cons, the variable of everything that plays into live shows, the audience, who's in the room, the energy, the inventory, the time of day, the competing shows, the way the sun is shining that day. I mean, so much goes into the variable. So I think that is a con. Not enough buyers, inexperienced sellers, poor inventory choices, low price sales, conflicting shows, Poshmark shows having a larger audience and just competing for the airtime, dividing the reseller community, the fact that you have to be on and like ready to go. It can be hard to prep, complex shipping, and then shipping overload, like when you get so overwhelmed by all of the items. Here we are at my seller dashboard. I thought I would navigate through here. I'm just going to go through some stats over here pretty quickly. This is my average rating. I've sold 1,279 items. I have this many reviews. I have one upcoming show, which was supposed to be on Sunday, and I decided to do my very first evening show. So I'm doing it on Tuesday, November 1st. I'm not sure when this video is going to go live. These are 54 recent reviews, and I appreciate everyone's kind words. And then down here are some past shows. So I do switch up my thumbnails just to make it a little bit more interesting. These are all my different thumbnails for previous shows. Okay, so this is my seller dashboard over here. And in this column over here, it shows all of my shows. I've completed 21 shows. And in those 21 shows, my total sales were $14,962. So close to that 15,000. So my average show is $712. Does $712. That's sales. That's before fees. I take 8% in fees. Then there's a PayPal percentage fee and a 30% processing fee on each item. Poshmark is a 20% fee plus, oftentimes, at least with me, I'm giving discounted shipping. So that is more in fees, essentially, that goes to the platform. My top show, I sold 122 items and my sales were $1,318. My lowest show was a live show that I did. It was the only Thrift With Me show that I did live from the pit, and I had very limited time. That was really fun, though. I sold 20 items. I made $179 in sales. That was fun because I was just like lifting things up. I didn't have to buy it unless somebody bid on it. So that was a fun one. I've tried different things. I've had a kids show. My kids show was more successful than I thought it was going to be. I did $809 in sales on that day. So to quickly go over some recent sales, because I do see that my sales have been dwindling a little bit. In the month of September, to put it in perspective, I did 6 shows, which is a lot for me. I did $3,169 in sales. In the month of October, I only did 2 shows. So I'm slowing down and the platform's slowing down in my experience. I did 2 shows and my totals for October were just $904. So that's going to significantly hit my sales because I've been really relying on my Whatnot sales. So next I want to go over some of the sales that I made from my most recent show, which was on Sunday, October 23rd. If we go into Breakfast Club 10/23/22, this is what the screen looks like before you get ready to ship. And what I'll often do is I collapse everything because it makes it much easier. And then you just see the labels that need to be shipped. I'm going to go back to expand here. And we are going to go through some of my sales. So the items that I'm going to point out to you were items that I bought at the Goodwill outlet. And my average cost of goods was $1.43. This Lucky Brand white turtleneck sweater, I don't have images to show you, sold for $9. All right, so I'm going to go through this really quickly. I'm not going to point it out on the screen. New York & Company, new with tag, white shirt, $6. Santana booties, $9. Those did not have a size, so that was something I wanted to disclose on Whatnot. I thought that would be easier. A suede jacket, really pretty suede jacket. This sold for $10. I thought I was going to get more for that. Still from the bins. A Shein puffer jacket, $1.43, sold for $10. A pair of Nike Pro shorts. Those sold for only $4. I think I ran them once and there were no buyers, so I ran them again and then they sold for $4. A loft dress sold for $7. This particular loft dress was a size 18 plus size black dress, and I've gotten multiple requests on this similar to the Cape Cod sweatshirt. So this is an item, as I reflect, this would have done, I think, better on Poshmark. There was definitely more of a want for that after they saw it in my video. And I also have the advantage of sharing these things on my YouTube channel, which sometimes generates interest that will carry over to a sale on Poshmark or on Whatnot. I had a Kate Spade bag that was flawed. It was yellowed. I definitely would not have picked this up if it weren't for Whatnot. I've historically had good luck selling Kate Spade on Whatnot. So I picked it up and it sold for $11. I was happy with that because that's one I definitely would not have taken home with me. A scarf, a gray camo scarf, definitely style based, that sold for $6. a mint kiss lock clutch. I want to say it was like a Charming Charlie's or that type of a brand. I would not have picked this up. That sold for $5. Cape Cod sweatshirt, which I mentioned earlier, sold for $46. An Athleta dress sold for $9. That probably would have done better on Poshmark. A Curious George t-shirt that I picked up, and I noticed it had stains on it. It was a little kid's Curious George shirt. I thought it was vintage. It was not. Probably cost 50 cents weight-wise. That sold for $2. And then a Metallica t-shirt sold for $8. Had some cracking on it on the graphic. So I probably could have gotten more for that on Poshmark as well. 14 items from the Goodwill outlet. My cost of goods was $20.02 for those 14 items based on the $1.43 cost of goods per item. My sales were $142. I'm not sad about that. Oh, I multiplied it by 0.88. So after fees, I was at about $125 after whatnot fees. Then I subtracted my $20.02. Then I ended up with $104.94 in profit. Now, this is just a portion of my sales from that day. To me, that's worth it. I made a $20 investment. It was $105 in profit. In that particular show, I had 40 items, and these are just 14 of those items. The sales from this day were, as you can see $384. I had a New with Tag Breakfast Club sweatshirt that sold for $24. This same sweatshirt in my last show, because I bought 3 of these, sold for $39. So there's that variable. Just in a 2 weeks time, it went from a $39 sale to $24, just based on who was in the room. This Anna Holtblad blazer, this was an item that I picked up. It had some moth holes in it that I missed. So this was one of those items that I was really excited to pass on to somebody else. This was like a $200 blazer. I noticed that it had some flaws. I probably just barely recouped my cost, maybe lost about $1 on this, but I didn't have to donate it. Probably would not have wanted to list that on Poshmark. So I was happy that it went to a new home. Oh, these 2 items right here, this Talbot's blazer and this J. Jill cardigan, purple cardigan. I don't know how it ended up in my closet. I didn't intend to buy it for me, but sometimes when I wash it and hang things, they end up not leaving my closet because my washer dryer is in the same area as my closet. Anyway, these were both from my own closet. I literally grabbed them before the show and I said, you know what? I think I'm done with these pieces. And that resulted in $29 in sales on 2 items that were just in my closet. I just grabbed them right before the show. I do a lot of spontaneous items for the show that I just kind of get excited about. And I'm like, oh, you know what? Let's try this there. This is a bundle, a 6-piece bundle that somebody purchased. This is actually could be mentioned as a pro. There's a lot of bundling that happens on Whatnot. And because people are getting a decent deal, they're more likely to buy a lot of things. This Free People item sold for $13. I paid about $6 for that. Oh, these blue light readers, these were in my Buy It Now. My cost for those were like $3 or $4, and I put them in my Buy It Now for $12. I sold 2 of them. So that was a great little profit, and those are super easy to ship. This Victoria's Secret sports bra I bought on Whatnot, I got a bundle. Maybe it was 2 sports bras, and I paid $7. I bought a bunch from this woman. So I think I paid $3.50 and I used credit. So this I didn't pay anything for essentially, and it sold for $9. Yeah, so just trying to give you an idea of some of the things here. Those are my thoughts on the pros and the cons of Whatnot on this October 29th day that I'm filming this. This is subject to change. I'm sure I've missed some pros and I've missed some cons, and I am just one opinion. I'm just relaying my experience. Like with anything, you can ask 20 other resellers on Whatnot and they could have 20 different pros and 20 different cons. So this is just my hot take based on my experience after selling 1,200 items. Okay, so now the big question, do I plan to continue selling on Whatnot? Drum roll. The answer is yes. I am going to stick it out. I'm doing less shows now, maybe 1 a week, maybe 1 every other week. It has now definitely become a place for me to connect with people, which I really enjoy. I get a lot of energy from doing these shows. It suits my personality. It's really exciting for me when someone's like, oh, I watch you on YouTube and I'm so excited I finally caught you on Whatnot. It's an exchange That is different than, you know, writing comments back and forth on YouTube. I really enjoy that. I don't really do lives on YouTube much anymore. I haven't in a very long time, and I don't see myself doing them. So this is a great opportunity for me. So for that reason, I will continue. I will continue to make purchases that I probably shouldn't have, or I will continue to have stale items in my inventory, or I will continue to find style-based things that I'm excited to buy and sell specifically to Whatnot. There are just too many things that I see that are great for Whatnot that would prevent me from selling on this platform. I should also mention, when you see the sales that I made from my last show and what they went for on Whatnot, these are items that 9 times out of 10, I wouldn't have ever even picked up to sell on Poshmark. So some people are like, well, why would I waste my time? I'm already thrifting at the bins. And if I hold up an item and say, oh, this is really cute and I'm wishy-washy, but well, will it sell on Poshmark? Will it sit? Do I want to take the pictures? I'm like, you know what? I'll sell it on Whatnot. I'll buy it for $2. I'll start it at $5, and whatever it sells for, it sells for. It's one more item in my show. It's one more item for people to choose from. So for me, a lot of the sourcing that I do for Whatnot, I'm already sourcing. So it's really not taking me any more time to look at something and instead of passing on it, throwing it in my cart and saying this is going to be for Whatnot. I will continue to keep my cost of goods very low on Whatnot. That I think is going to become increasingly important if the per item sales keeps coming down. And I don't know what my threshold will be for me to decide that's it, I'm not doing this anymore. But for right now, I still really enjoy it. I am not a big Whatnot viewer. I was much more active when the app first started. And now I'll hop on, like if I'm listing, sometimes I'll hop into a show, or I'll, you know, stop in and say hi to a friend. I'm not buying as much as I was, so I am also part of the reason the buyer pool is drying up. I was purchasing a lot more. I haven't bought much lately because I've been really busy. One of the things I'm really grateful for a decision that I made is that I knew when I started on Whatnot, I didn't want this to be my end all be all. I knew it was going to be a strand of my reselling business. And if I could recommend one thing to you, it may be just that. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Just like we always talk about diversifying in selling on multiple platforms, this is one more platform for you. It may be not your cup of tea. You may want to sell on Tradesy or Mercari or Depop or Facebook Marketplace. I'm not a big Facebook Marketplace person. It's not my cup of tea. It doesn't mean it's a bad platform. Same with Whatnot. It may not be your cup of tea, but it doesn't mean it's a bad platform. Go into it with an open mind, keep your costs low. And I think, yeah, if you can look at it as a strand of your business for certain items, it can really be a beneficial platform. And I'm very grateful for the friends that I've made. I'm grateful for the sales that I've made. I will definitely continue to sell on Whatnot in a limited capacity. And I don't know what the future holds once I start selling on Poshmark, how that is going to affect my Whatnot lives. I'm sure it will affect it, but I don't even have a date set for my first Poshmark sale. But I will definitely report back and let you know how that goes when I do experience that, and then I'll be able to give an honest comparison of the two platforms. One of the other things with the affiliate program that I did not participate in was they offered $100 for like sponsored content. If you did like how I prep for my Whatnot show or some sort of a tutorial, that they would link it from their website or the app or somehow to feature certain things. And I've never done any sponsored content with them. There's a chance that I might partner with them in the future, but I really decided that I didn't want to do any sponsored content during this kind of trial period. That was kind of a bit of a roller coaster ride, because I wanted to just be able to really speak my mind on how I felt about it. And it's not a perfect platform. There is no perfect platform. You have to see if there's a way that you can fit it into your repertoire and what you enjoy as a reseller. There's a lot that goes into deciding whether or not live sales are for you. I do enjoy them. I do plan to continue with them. I'm very curious to see how Poshmark pans out with their live sales and just the future of live sales in general. All trends and articles that I have read, and you can do a quick Google search and find lots of articles on how live sales is growing in the United States. So I don't think it's a bad idea to get involved on some level if it's something that you have an interest in. I hope that Whatnot continues to grow. I will keep being honest and letting you guys know how things are going with the platform. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more from me. Thanks so much for watching. I love you guys. I'll be back soon with a new video. Take care. Bye.